So, hello, we made it. We made it. We're a tiny bit late, guys, but here I am as Charlie Wall, and I am with Tanith Lee, who is also known as Mrs. Menopause. And I told my group that I'd be talking to her. So, welcome, Tanith. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
No problem.
Can you tell our audience a little bit about you and your journey and why you set up Mrs. Menopause for me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. So we have to go back a few years now. So I was in my 30s, and I was it was towards my late 30s, and I wasn't feeling right. Actually, I was feeling pretty shit, to be honest with you. Mentally, so very low mood, depressed, practically suicidal, like really, really low, no energy. I just felt like I was on the floor. And around about that time, I was having a lot of pain issues as well. So one of the things that was suggested from my osteopath was to have at that time was the coil removed. So I had the Mirena coil in. So I had that removed, and I had one bleed. Whether that was a true period or not, I don't know. But I had that one bleed. Then I didn't have a bleed for, it probably got to about 6 or 8 months before I thought I need to go and see the doctor. At the same time, my mood had gone to crap, and I was just feeling awful. Also, it's worth pointing out, during my 30s at night, I was having really, really, really bad night sweats. And you know what? At that time, I didn't even question it. And I look back now and I'm like, why did I not go and see some about it? But, it is what it is. All the pieces of the puzzle started to come together. So I went and saw my GP, and she said, it wasn't one I'd seen before. She said, right, okay, let's do some blood tests. So we did the blood tests, and I went off on my way, getting on with stuff as much as I can. I was personal training at the time. And I remember sat outside my one of my clients' houses. I was in the car. I got the phone call, and it was from my doctor. So I better take it. And I spoke to this doctor. She was a locum. She wasn't a regular, my GP. And she said, "Oh, we've got your blood test result back, and it looks like you've gone through the menopause." And I was like, you could hear. Well, you could. It was just silence. So I was like, "What?" It's thinking, have you got the right person? Yeah, you've gone through the menopause. Basically, go to your local health food shop and maybe get some supplements. And good luck. And that was that really. And I was stunned. I don't think I'd even thought the word menopause, Charlie. It had not even come into that. I still had young children at the time.
Yeah.
It was a total swerve ball. So being in the fitness industry, I thought, right, let's look into this. Let's do a bit of research. What is all this about? And at that time, and this is about 8 years ago now, there really wasn't anyone talking about it.
No. There
was a couple of the big names we know that, they were talking about it. But apart from that, there really wasn't that much information. It was still very much a taboo subject. But the more I talked about it on Facebook, people were suddenly really interested. And particularly at that time, like other fitness professionals, they're going through the same thing. They wanted to help their female clients.
Yeah.
So I started talking about it more and what I was doing, and and it was just great. Being so honest about everything was really helping other people. So it kind of evolved from there. The name Mrs. Menopause actually come from Paul Moore. He was my kind of mentor at the time, and he was somebody was asking about menopause and hormones, and he goes, "Oh, you want to go and talk to Tanith, Mrs. Menopause?" And I was like, "Oh, well, that's what it is, doesn't it?" That's when it stuck. So it's all down to Mr. Moore.
So for those of you who don't know, me Tanith have known each other for many, many years, both personal trainers. And Paul Moore was one of our mentors. And he's a character, so look him up.
Yeah.
So what did you do, like when you found out that you'd gone through them, and how was that for you mentally, physically?
So mentally, I was, as I say, in this bad place. Physically, I wasn't getting hot flushes. I do particularly remember one I had. I was in the cinema with my friend, and I was like, all of a sudden, like, oh, wow, is it really hot in here? And I remember kind of stripping off all my clothes. And that's the only time I really remember. So I'm quite lucky I didn't have that. So I had the night sweats had calmed down as well for whatever reason. But for me, it was much more of a mental thing and also mindset. You've got to think I was 38.
Yeah.
And that's a whole new conversation where you're having with yourself. You know, I have 2 kids and I didn't plan on having any more. But when that choice is suddenly taken away from you, it makes you rethink kind of your place in the world a little bit. You know, I thought, God, does that mean I'm suddenly going to get older really quickly? You know, am I going to, you know, be attractive to it? Do you know, all that kind of stuff went on in my head. And I'm going to be honest, Charlie, you know, I think really it's only probably taken until the last year or so to really come to terms with it. Even though I was doing what I was doing and I was talking about it and I was helping women and I was sharing all my stuff. Personally, I think it took me quite a long time to actually come to terms with going through it at a young age. I know women that have gone through it younger, but, you know, it was a big mindset shift for me. It really was.
So how old are you now, do you mind me asking?
46.
46, same age, yeah, of course. So you'd say it's been nearly 10 years and only the last year and a half you've found that you've come to terms with it or at peace with it?
Yeah, I think that because of my age, I think that's why. Really come to terms with it, really accepted it as part of me. Yeah, even though I was kind of going through the motions, yeah, I think that it took that long really for it to really sit in what it means. And I have to say now, you know, I can talk about what I've done to get myself better and all that kind of stuff in a minute. But where I am now, I'm in a place that I think actually it's truly transformational. And I'm in a place where we had this conversation that I'm literally, you know, I feel like I'm in that power of that menopause now. Post-menopause, I feel like I'm picking up that power. And now I'm taking a massive kind of like stock take of my life and deciding now, you know, what I do moving forward. Because, you know, hopefully I've got a lot of years ahead of me. And I'm certainly not the person I was before, you know, all this happened. And that's kind of the positive aspect, I think, of menopause. I know it's a shit transition. It can be awful for some people, not all people. But actually the other side of it can be very, very empowering and very powerful. And I think you get a different power, you get a different energy when you've come through the menopause, if you're kind of open to that kind of that mindset.
Well, I love that. Can you talk a little bit more about that empowering mindset? Like, what has it been about it that you've kind of now stepped into that power?
I think for me, I think it's taken so long because of the age of my kids and stuff as well. I mean, now they're nearly 18 and 16, so they're reaching their own, you know, quite significant times in their lives. So that's then allowed me to check my role as a mother and as that caregiver, you know, is changing. You know, you know, that changes. So I don't have to be so hands-on like I was. So that means then I've now found that time to invest back into myself. It just felt like now is the right time really to look at myself and look at that mindset and what I can do to go forward. I don't know why it's happened now. I don't really know how. I just think I'd reached that point actually that I was still feeling pretty crap, even though I'm on HRT and I look after myself, you know, and everything else I was doing. Mentally, I still wasn't great. It felt like I was still holding on to all the negative stuff I was having around menopause. I still was full of, you know, I was getting anxiety and depression and low mood, and this downward spiral was really familiar to me. And I thought the only person that can change this is me. Yeah. No amount of supplements, HRT, whatever is going to change that. I've got to step up for myself and take some responsibility for me and my mindset and my own well-being. And as scary as some of that is, and hard, and, you know, I've really got to lean into that resistance. And, you know, it's that fear, isn't it? Keeps us stuck sometimes. But once I'm kind of moving into that, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And actually, it's pretty amazing how quickly, once you kind of get into that new frame of mind, how that energy then starts to come back up.
So what I heard you say there really was that it's the thinking around the sort of word menopause and what that means for us as women, but actually it's not as bad once you get to, I mean, I'm putting the physical symptoms aside. Yeah. The actual reality is it's just another phase of life that we as women go through.
Absolutely. And I was on an interview with a couple of friends the other day, and we were talking. I said it's like menopause needs a rebrand, new logo, because it's just, unfortunately, it's just we've got this thing in our head that menopause is going to be this thing, and it's whatever we create it to be, isn't it? And I think, unfortunately, as much as we're talking about it, it's great. It's not so much of a taboo, and the conversation, celebrities are coming out and everyone's talking about it. It's great. But unfortunately, all we hear is the negative side. So it's almost like we're priming ourselves now to have a bad experience of it. We're almost expecting it to be truly awful. Do you know what I mean? And it's quite hard, and it's not like that for everyone. So hopefully that means, you know, to give some women some hope that actually some women, their period just stop and that's it.
Yeah, I've got clients like that, and I've got other clients in the group. I mean, the reason this conversation started was because there are some women in my group she connects who are really struggling and felt very alone with it, and I think didn't kind of understand what was going on, and there's a feeling of feeling out of control of their emotions and feeling out of control of their body in some way. So one of the main questions, I mean, you mentioned being on HRT.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the main questions I've had is, are there any natural ways that you would advise for those who may be on HRT but want to come off, or for those who haven't yet got HRT but are wanting to manage symptoms? I mean, have you explored that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've frozen my end on the camera, so hopefully.
Yeah, I know you have.
Otherwise, it was some weird kind of. It's not the most flattering of pictures, is it? Anyway, we'll carry on. So yes, definitely there are lots of. It's quite tricky, and I wish I could just give you a list of supplements to go and take. But you know what? It so depends on the woman and the woman's condition and what's going on for her, and how our different systems of her bodies are kind of working together. So yes, there are definitely some supplements to take. So the things like black cohosh, say, Agnus castus. They're the main ones that are really well known for helping women and to balance their hormones. Now, with those supplements, generally you don't get them on the high street in what we call therapeutic doses. So you don't get them in a big enough dose really to have the best impact on your body. To get some decent supplements, I'd probably go and see a nutritional therapist or a functional medicine doctor or somebody like that. So you can get what your body needs. But it's, you know, if you want to try, you can try the stuff from the high street, and lots of people do, and it does help them. But I would say, you know, probably get some one-to-one kind of advice. And
you're a nutritional therapist now?
I am, yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was 3 years of my life. That will be imprinted forever. Yeah.
You're still frozen, Tanith.
Am I? Oh no.
Well, I'll keep going. So would you, like, having been someone who is a nutritional therapist who is on HRT, there seems to be quite a lot of stigma around having HRT, and I wondered what your thoughts on that were.
There absolutely is a lot of stigma. While I'm talking, I'm going to see if I can get my camera back as well. But yeah, there isn't. So you can't see me, so I can just.
Well, I can see you. It's just that you're frozen.
Oh. So yeah, the thing, HRT is a very emotive subject.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the press like to get a hold of information and twist it around in a way that suits them. So in 2002, the World Health Organization released some information that sent everyone spinning out of control. And
what was that?
it was saying how it causes breast cancer, how it can do all these, you know, it can cause breast cancer. And what wasn't clear was, you know, how they got the information. It wasn't a very sound research. A lot of the women were in their 60s, so they were more prone to getting breast cancer anyway. Majority of them were overweight, so again, more risk of getting breast cancer. And also, you know, it wasn't a very solid research, as in, like, lots of people dropped out and stuff. So it wasn't the best research.
Okay.
Actually, you know, and further down the line, that research was looked into again, and it was found actually the increase in risk for getting breast cancer wasn't as high as they thought. And the thing is, some people, depends on what, you know, HRT, if you've got a tendency for breast cancer in the family, then, you know, you're advised not to go on it, which is fine, isn't it? So there are alternatives, as we talked about, some of the supplements, dietary changes, lifestyle changes, that all help. But with HRT, for me, it was very different. You know, you've got to think, I was 38. Yeah. My body was still expecting to have a level of hormones. You know, I was, you know, still in my 30s. So it was a no-brainer for me. I went on bioidentical hormones, which at the time, well, they're promoted to be much more of a natural form of hormones, the more body-ready form, if that makes sense. Okay. So when I was diagnosed, I went and saw a GP who was a nutritional therapist and a bioidentical hormone specialist. Yeah. And actually, that was such a game changer for me. Like, it felt like the lights had come on very quickly. Okay. For me, that's what the difference was, because I was young, and I just had to do something to feel better. So that's what I did. But I think it has to be a personal choice. I think there's risks with everything. There are risks if you drink too much alcohol. There are risks if you're not eating well. There are so many risks, and I think we grab onto this thing. But I think for me, it's a choice. Is it how I want to feel going about my life are weighing up against, you know, a small risk. Yeah. I think there are different, and also the different forms of HRT. So the ones that can cause more problem is the combined oral HRT. But what I'm on a estrogen gel, and I take oral progesterone, and that combination has worked really well for me. And I come off it at the end of last year. I come off in October last year, and I went back on it about August this year, and I come off it, and, you know, I clearly still needed some hormones in my body, because I felt like I almost had a second menopause, and actually that's what prompted me to kind of do a lot of work on myself. Okay, so for those that don't know,
oh, she's gone. She's gone. Oh gosh. Oh, she's coming back. Oh, you're back.
I'm back without my face.
Oh, thank God. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I'm back. So the thing with HRT is, I would say, definitely, you know, don't dismiss it. It's a personal choice. And if you're feeling that bad and the thing is going to work for you, take it. You don't have to take it forever. But it could be a lifesaver. It saved my life, Charlie, literally, and I mean that. I was just suicidal. I can't explain that, the darkness I was in, you know. And I don't think I'd have the same conversation about, well, maybe I would, and going on antidepressants or something. If I wasn't well, I needed something to make me feel better, and I tried all the other stuff, and it wasn't working.
Well, I completely agree. And everybody who has sort of posted their concerns in the group, the women that have said, have I HRT, it saved my life. You know, literally that's what they've said. It saved my life. I
think what we've got to remember also with the menopause is, you know, we're living longer and longer and longer now, aren't we? So this is all new to our body. Our body hasn't evolved. Our body is still doing what it did thousands of years ago, but we're living longer. So this is all new. So, you know, we don't know what our body needs really, what it doesn't need. You know, we're having to kind of catch up really with what's going on in our lifestyles. So I just think, you know, if HRT is the choice you need to take it.
Yeah.
Or if it's not, don't.
Yeah, I think it has to be, people have to make an informed decision rather than buy into
absolutely. And it's very confusing. If you want more information about HRT, go on the British Menopause Society website. They have lots of information there, and Menopause Matters website as well. She has lots of information, you know, and it's all, you know, it's come from the best resources. So, you know, get your facts. There's a NICE guidelines on menopause as well. So if you look up the NICE guidelines, it will tell you, give you the information that your doctor has about HRT. So you can go and you can read up and you can do your research, and you can go and see your GP, or even you might even have a menopause specialist nurse at your local practice. You can go armed and say, look, I've had a look at this. This is what I want to do. Can you help me?
Yeah, so just on that point, NICE is NICE, so there's some NICE guidelines that people can look at. Do you have like a Facebook group yourself where you talk about this? Or
I do, yeah. I've got a group that I called Women's Wisdom with Mrs. Menopause, and it's all to do with women's health. Of course, I love doing what I do. I do Mrs. Menopause, but it's not everything that I do. You know, I do work mainly with women, women's health. So it's talking about everything around women's health, midlife, all sorts of stuff. It's just, yeah, and just kind of sharing our wisdom, really. I wanted to create a community of what we call, you know, the sisterhood kind of community, women supporting women, holding each other up, you know, listening, helping, sharing. That's the kind of environment that I wanted to create.
Oh, that sounds great. So I'll find the link and I'll put that in the comments. One question, well, two actually, that came up that I thought were quite good questions, because I've got women of all ages who are going through this.
Yeah.
One said, you know, aside from hot flashes, what are the other symptoms that one may get or not get?
That's a great question, isn't it? I mean, I think if you look online, you can get like lists of like 30 different symptoms. That's not a depressing read at all.
Especially if you like Google and you're like, oh my God.
Oh, I've got to Google, don't even go there. But the thing is, with menopause symptoms, a lot of them overlap and cross over with other stuff. Like there might be something going on with the thyroid, or there might be something going on with your adrenal health. You know, there could be. We're not that simple, are we? You know, things overlap. However, women, the most common ones are sleep disturbance.
Okay.
Maybe night sweats, low mood, maybe feelings of isolation, not wanting to go out and connect to the world, maybe feeling a little bit not very confident. Some women feel a bit, or loads of women feel really tired, like bone tired, fatigue. Maybe joint pain as well is quite one often the common one. I'm trying to think what else pops up in the group.
Yeah, that was something that somebody asked. Is that normal to get joint pain? Because somebody said, you know, they're trying exercise to. Yeah,
we can come. We can definitely. We'll come around back to that, to the joint pain and why we do that. Memory. That's the only we've got that one. Yeah, memory, concentration, focus. Loss of a libido. I've probably forgotten some, but they're the main kind of physical one. Yeah, physical and mental ones, really.
Okay, so go back to the joint pain, because that's something.
Yeah, the joint pain. So the reason we have estrogen receptors all around our body. We can't see them, but they're not out on the outside, little receptors, and we have them like, you know, in all different places. So when the estrogen levels drop, it just means that those areas then aren't going to be, I guess, performing as they should be. So that's why we get memory impairment and forgetfulness and lack of focus and that kind of stuff. But it also can affect, lack of estrogen can affect our mucous membranes. Yeah. Oh, I didn't meant to mention that. So mucous membranes can be anywhere, but it's mainly they're in the eyes, in the nose, in the genitals, and your digestive system. So if those aren't as juicy and as moist as they should be, they're not going to work. So digestive problems are really common. Actually, I didn't mention that one. IBS type things, dry eyes.
Dry eyes.
One, yeah. And also, if you think if we feel like we're drying up a little bit, doesn't sound great, does it? Our joints could be affected too. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so that's. I mean, I think now if we are going to talk about stuff, vaginas is really a good thing to talk about as well. I've just wrote a thing about this the other day because nobody is, even someone with a word goes, oh, I can't talk about that. You know, there's a whole big story. Actually, I'm just going to do a big shout out for my friend who's written this book.
Me and my menopausal vagina.
Honestly, brilliant. It's written with humour, empathy, but, you know, no one talks about what can happen. Not everyone gets it, but what can happen. And actually, she's written, I really, really love this book.
What's her name? What's her name?
Her name's Jane Lewis. She's got a private Facebook group as well. She talks about the awful time she's had with vaginal atrophy. But she's written it so well, and it really talks to you and explains to you about your body. She talks about HRT. She's got some lovely graphics in it. It's a really well-written book. Anyway, a big plug for Jane. So yeah, so that's why it's the lower estrogen levels that causes us to kind of feel like we're drying up a little bit. And this is where some of those herbs can come in. Fish oils and stuff can help as well with joint pain. Your omega-3s, they're anti-inflammatory. That can be really useful as well.
Yes, that's interesting. So that's kind of generic nutrition information that, you know, we'd probably give.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same. But it does really help. There is there's something called sea buckthorn, which they call omega-7, and it's bright orange. I haven't got it up here. Which is very good for dryness. So it's good, as I said, for dry eyes. You know, dry nose. It's also good, as I say, for vaginal dryness and that kind of stuff as well. We take it orally, but it just goes out and helps those problems. It gets a lot of really good reviews. Something I use as well.
All right, brilliant.
Yeah.
I can hear you. It's terrible. I think you've covered them all really. It's you know, how do I deal with my low mood when I don't have any of the mess, you know, the monthly mess? Like, how can I manage those?
So my advice for that, and I'm really glad that question's come up actually, is to track. So I created like a it's like a little spreadsheet really. It's nothing fancy, but it's got to track your symptoms over a month or multiple months. Yeah. So because I still think even if we're not bleeding, we have cycles. We live in cycles, don't we? The moon, you know, our seasons, we live in cycles. So I still believe we have a cycle. And so I would track. And it's things like tracking how your sleep is, you know, all your symptoms, and trying to get a bit of a pattern and an awareness of what's going on. And how that, you know, because it may be still cyclical. That's me now, sorry. Oh, I turned it off. So that may be cyclical.
Oh no, you're frozen again.
Frozen again. Okay. It's another really attractive face. Look at that. So yeah, so I would definitely track symptoms to see if there is a cycle and correlations between things like, you know, how you're sleeping, if you're exercising, you know, how stressed out you've been, all those things, and see if you can start to bring all that stuff together and see what's making an impact. Yeah.
What, with regards to taking supplements and...
Yeah, all of it. Anything you're doing, it's having that awareness of changes you've made and then being able to stand back and see a bigger picture of what's going on and actually see if you know, what's been making a change for you. And just being more in touch with our bodies in more ways than one. But, you know, just really kind of connecting in with our bodies and knowing what's going on for ourselves, I think is really important. And listening to our bodies. So if you've got a low mood or you're feeling really tired, you may need a day off. You might need to spend a day in bed. You might, I don't know whatever it is, but we have to learn, don't we, a bit of self-care and a bit of self kind of understanding and being kind to ourselves, listening to our bodies.
I love that you said that, Tanith, because what I see the most is that women don't listen to their bodies at all and just keep going, keep pushing forward.
Yeah, push.
And then, you know, reach burnout, which I know that you and I have both experienced. Yeah. So I'm really glad you said that. Self-care.
Yeah, definitely. And that's different for every person, right? You know, what one person might like a mani-pedi and another person might want to go and walk the dog in a muddy field. It's whatever it is. But it's putting our needs, wants and desires top of mind without feeling guilty. And honestly, that comes with menopause, definitely. I don't give so much of a crap these days about what other people think. It's so liberating. It's great.
Well, is there anything else that you feel is important to add for anyone who might be struggling with this?
I would like to add that the menopause, it's a transition.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the end. It's just a change, moving from one stage of your life to another. And it could be a bumpy ride, but any little action you can take along that journey, anything positive action is going to help. But it won't last forever. It's just it's just that hormonal havoc while your body's readjusting. But the other side, you know, there's so much that there is out there for you. So that would be, I suppose, hope is my final message, really. Don't give up on yourself. There is always something that will help you. And, you know, share, connect, talk to other people, and just, look after yourselves, really.
Yeah, there's always hope. I love that. Thank you, Tanith, for your time. I'll point people in your direction and try and get the name of that book again and put it all in the links. And let's hope this is recorded and we haven't that we haven't just talked to each other, and in which case we have to do it again.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, we could talk for hours, But yeah, you know, I'm more than happy to come back if there's not something more specific we want to talk about another time or whatever. That's no problem at all.
All right, that would be great. Yeah, I'll add this to my groups and then we'll see where we go. But thank you so much, Tanya.
No problem.
Lots of love and have a lovely day.
Yeah, and you. See you, Charlie. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.